It is the Beaver Banter Podcast. I'm CJ Baumgartner. There's Ian Rivers. Ian, another great day to be a Beaver, and it's always great when the Bemidji State football team can start the season 1-0, and fans at the chat were treated to an overtime victory for Bemidji State, 19-13 over Michigan Tech. Revenge, if you will, Ian, for the CCHA championship game that we don't need to talk about any further. Because we've been vindicated. So look, here we go. 1-0 in the football season. It's what you want. We'll talk about volleyball. We'll talk about women's soccer. They're getting their seasons going as well. I know basketball, their schedule release for men's basketball. Some other news, but first off, we'll start with football because they're the one team that's played so far in this new school year at Bemidji State University. And Bemidji State 1-0, of course, with that overtime win against Michigan Tech. Looking, we predicted wins. We predicted Bemidji State was going to be 1-0. The path to get there wasn't quite what we thought. I think certainly an overtime game, and I know we weren't able to catch a lot of the game live, but we were able to catch the overtime period in like maybe the last couple minutes of the football game leading up to it. But Ian dodged a bullet, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I caught a majority of the game. I think I told you. I mean, I probably watched 75 to 80% of it, but I was at work and on my phone. So, like, of the parts that I did watch, I would see, like, I would try to lock in for a third down and watch a third down play or something. But, it was a little bit kind of just passive listening and passive watching of the game. So, offensively, I can't tell you exactly how ugly it was. I know that it was not good at all. And I think that Bolte made some comments in his post-game press conference about the offense and how poor they played. He's not a guy that's going to sugarcoat much. So that is, we know that about him. But it was a little bit of a dodging a bullet, so you speak. If you look at the box score and just kind of skim over what happened, it doesn't look like it should have been an overtime game, but Bemidji really kind of dominated most categories. I mean, they outrushed Michigan Tech 173 to 19 on the game. They had 22 first downs. Michigan Tech had 15. The big thing we talked about was the turnovers, CJ. Bemidji State had two of them, both by quarterback Sam McGath. He threw an interception, I believe, in the first quarter. And then I think in the second quarter, he was scrambling, picked up a first down, which was, I think, the first down in maybe 2 or 3 drives. And after he got the first down, the ball popped out of his hand and Michigan Tech picked it up. So 2 turnovers to Michigan Tech 0. Not ideal. They did stall out a few times when they were in the red zone. So that's a big thing I noticed. The red zone offense was not as efficient as it was last year. The 2 field goals that were made in this game were 22 and 21 yards. So if you are able to convert those into touchdowns a little bit easier, the game looks better. But I think that Bolte, realistically, it seemed like he was coaching a little differently than you normally would see him coach. Normally, oh gosh, it's 4th down and 3. We're going for it on the goal line. Like, why not? This game, he kicked in those situations because I think he realized the offense has not given us opportunities to score very much in this game. We need points. We need points to keep up with. Our defense is doing good enough. We have to get points when we're down here. We cannot come away with 0. It would be absolutely disastrous. And he played it right because those points did end up getting us to overtime. We were in the lead, and then the defense, the one drive the defense really didn't play its best on is, of course, it's the hardest drive because it's high stakes. But it was
differently
the final drive.
2 minutes. Right. Like, philosophically, like, you're allowing teams to like take some yardage, but you don't want them to get the sidelines or deep. And sometimes that can it's weird. You see it from high school on up to pros. Those last couple minutes can sometimes be the hardest for a defense, like you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. And so Michigan Tech was able to drive down the field and kick a game-tying field goal to send it to overtime. And then in overtime, their kicker actually missed a field goal, which was from, I can look here. How long was that field goal?
Had to have been like 26-ish.
27 yards in overtime. They missed the field goal. Bemidji State drives down the field, and well, actually, they didn't do that much driving on that last drive. It was a 21-yard pass from Sam McGath to Bryce Peters in the end zone for the win. Peters had a hell of a game. Beaver banter legend Bryce Peters. He had
friend of the podcast. Bryce
yeah, I mean, hey, let's just jump into it now. Since I've already brought him up kind of organically. This season we would like to do a little bit of a athlete of the week type deal, right? Can be from any sport, just an athlete that we thought had a fantastic week. And we're going to try not to do too many repeat offenders unless they really, really stand out. But for week one, there wasn't much sporting action going on, but the big news of the week has to be Bryce Peters. He's going to be our first Beaver Banter athlete of the week. 5 catches, 72 yards, and 2 touchdowns, including the game-winning walk-off touchdown from quarterback Sam McGath. So congrats to Bryce on a great week. Of course, we spoke to him last season, but yeah, it was good-ish from the offense in the second half. They played a little bit better. The first half was really poor. Second half, they kind of woke up a little bit. McGath, not a banner day from him. It almost looked like he was a freshman starting in his first game.
There's a little bit of growing pains, yeah, with this.
Yeah, and so let's see where it goes. He's not going to get benched after that.
It's 1 week, 1 game, and they came out and won. That's
and they won. They got it done. 20 of 36, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. There was not much deep action in this game. It was a lot of out routes. It was a lot of bubble screens. When they did go deep, I remember in the was it the first half or was it the third quarter? They went deep to Peters. He drew a defensive pass interference penalty. I think that ended up getting them in field goal range and getting them one of those field goals. And then, of course, on the last play of the game, when they go up the sidelines to Bryce Peters in the end zone, he comes down with it. So the downfield game was there when they had it. I just don't think they have a lot of receivers that specialize in kind of being that outside guy right now. I mean, we haven't seen anybody really take that role.
Top of a defense is what you're trying to say.
Right. Brendan Bolio moved on. Now Del Duncan Busby moved on. And they're waiting for that next guy to step up and be that outside receiver kind of guy. Peters is really, really good out of the slot. And, I mean, to be fair, he did have some downfield action in this game. Yeah, exactly. So maybe it's him that's going to step up. But, Drayton Lehman, he also had a couple of catches, 6 for 38 yards. So, again, it's a lot of underneath stuff. Nobody else had more than 2 catches on the day besides Bryce and Drayton. Running the ball, pretty good offensively. And honestly, it didn't really look like it when the game was actually going on because the runs would come and then, they'd throw an incompletion or they'd take a sack or something. And it didn't end up leading to too many first downs like straight in a row. And so that was the frustrating thing. But Jaden Washington looked good on the ground, 9 carries, 71 yards. He had the 26-yarder in the second half, which ended up getting them. It was probably their best drive of the game. I think it ended in a field goal only, unfortunately. But he played well. Jared Gronsky, not as good of an average, 2.6 yards, 16 carries, 49, but he's a little bit more of the short yardage guy. You don't care as much about the average when he's asked to pick up the 3rd and 1 or the 3rd and 2. All you care about is getting that first down. So, I mean, offensively, it wasn't terrific, but it definitely was, I think, better than it looked. I think that we can build off this performance, and I think it will get better as the season goes on. If it doesn't, we might be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, it is one of those where you just have to, you got to stray away from getting into that hot take territory. And it's the better part of what doing a podcast is over sports radio. You sports radio and you're very you're very much willing to lean in both feet in on like a hot take or something that's kind of shocking. But I think really it's week 1. You got to take not it with a grain of salt because these games do matter, but you need to just, have a little bit of patience with that. Now, if the offense looks shaky for the next couple of weeks, then you can start to freak out a little bit more. But like you talked about, Bemidji State had some opportunities. They're in the red zone a couple times. The interception, I believe, came when they were marching on the door of another touchdown drive. So like you had opportunities. You're right there. It's about finishing drives, and the good teams will finish drives. The teams that get to the playoffs will finish those drives. This is what Bemidji State has done the last few years. You got to give that offense a little bit of time. I know McGath is a veteran in this offense and in this program, but you sometimes still don't understand being a full-time starting quarterback until you're actually in it. Like you actually have to do it to really kind of get some of these things and some of these packages. Cause he's had experience being a quarterback down by the goal line, but it's mainly been take the direct snap and punch it in. Now he's got to throw. Now he's got to, read the line. Now he's got, like, it was pretty straightforward before, and now it's kind of opened up with this offense on his responsibility. And ideally you'd want to give him time to grow to the position. But again, in that spot, you didn't really have time to grow into it because you were trying to hang on and beat Michigan Tech. You got a tough game against Mankato coming up on Saturday that we'll get to in a second. But I think overall, it's just one of those, you got in, you got out. It wasn't pretty, but you got the win. You move on to next week and you figure it out, because they had some good stuff. I mean, their rushing totals, we talked about, like, were we going to see a good run game from Bemidji State? And they had a very excellent run game. I think overall, you pointed out a couple of the numbers. One of them that stood out to me was Bemidji State on third down. They were 6 for 16. And that's just, 3 for 8. Overall, if you're into fractions here, I'm trying to figure out what that percentage would be, but the point is, it's not high. So you gotta improve that third down a little bit. And again, I'd have to go back and look to see how many of them were like, third and manageable versus a lot of third and longs, and you just put yourself behind the chains. But again, there's a few things you clean up on, be a little better on third downs, be a little bit better in the red zone, and you'll have a chance to win a lot of football games this year. And again, Michigan Tech they're not, as we talked about before, they are not a juggernaut by any stretch, but they are not a pushover. We knew that it could potentially be a game that you're going to have to grind with them. And Bolte, I thought he gave a really good post-game interview on the Beaver Radio Network talking about, like, Michigan Tech has a style of play where they just want to grind, like they want to bring you into the grinder, and they want to do that to you. And I think Bemidji State almost got sucked in, if you will, and they were able to come out and win that game. So overall, shaky week one, of course, definitely not what we thought. And, from a fan morale standpoint, it doesn't exactly have you pumped up as maybe you could have been going into this big game against Mankato on the road, but you're 1-0, you move on. And if Bemidji State can play a good game on Saturday, we won't even think about that game against Tech on Thursday night. So one more thing to touch on before we jump into next week's game. We do have to give a shout out to Joey Prodzinski, the kicker for Bemidji State, who is named the NSIC Special Teams Player of the Week with his field goal contributions and helping the Beavers get a win on Thursday night. So congratulations to him. And again, congratulations to Bryce Peters as well on the Beaver Banter Player of the Week award. Very prestigious. Ian, I think his award is in the mail, right?
Yeah. It's on its way, Bryce. Don't worry. We'll get you something.
It's, maybe like it's like a book of stickers from Ian's house or something like that. It's just got a thumbs up. That's all we got. Yeah. That's all we got. We have somebody's got to sponsor this podcast, man. We got to get it going.
Right.
Come on, somebody, please, so we can get these guys some kind of compensation. Start up the Beaver Banter NIL fund. How about that? Where's our QR code on the back of helmets?
I think we're a ways away from that, bud.
Well, the NCAA outlawed it, but we were on the verge of greatness. We were just about to have it figured out, and then they told Oklahoma State they couldn't do it. So we figured we'd just shut her down. We were close. Don't look into that. Okay, looking at Saturday's game, they're going down to Mankato, a place that's a house of horrors for many teams. The Mavericks, they got a week 1 win against a ranked team on the road, and now they come to play Bemidji State, another ranked team. Bemidji State hangs on at 20 in the Division II rankings, so they're still a top 20 team. Obviously, the poll makers didn't think too much of Bemidji State's week 1 victory. They're not, panicking about this team either. which is a sign of confidence across the country for Bemidji State. Ian, playing Minnesota State, no easy task.
No, especially not in Mankato after your offense played like that. If they're going to have any chance in this game, it's going to be because the defense steps up and plays exactly like it did in week 1. And I do want to
great in week 1.
Yeah, they played really well in week 1. For as much as the concern about the offense, this is what I've been saying all the way back to last year. I think post Brandon Alt, this team is going to be okay, fine, because the defense is built to win. Like, you saw the offense play almost as bad as we thought it possibly could in week 1, and they still got the win because their defense is now built out in a way that helps them succeed. A couple of years ago, you wouldn't have been able to say that. Now they've got the pieces in place to have a competitive defense. But now you head to Mankato, and this is a team that absolutely they didn't throttle Northwest Missouri State, but they definitely had their way with them. A 36-22 victory. And you look at the rushing stats Bemidji State had, Mankato was even better. They allowed negative 17 rushing yards to this game, to this team from Missouri. And the passing defense, it wasn't good. Minnesota State currently sitting in last place in terms of pass defense, allowed 268 yards through the air for Northwest Missouri State. Of course, a lot of these games were against teams that weren't so good. So when Minnesota State plays a good team, they're going to let up some passing yards. It's going to be difficult for Bemidji State to move the ball. You want to see them move the ball on the ground, but against a rushing defense this good, it's going to be really, really difficult. So I think you want this to be a really low-scoring game. Maybe pop some big plays in the first half, get out to a lead, and then try to lean on your defense. It's going to be the best way to do it. What are you looking for from this game?
I mean, again, the defense is going to have to step up. When you look at Mankato, again, they're a top team. I think this week they're ranked 11th, or they're ranked 11th through 13, 10th. They're in that like 15 to 8 range nationally in the country, and they're always a tough team to play. We know from last year on homecoming, they spoiled Bemidji State's jump into the lake, and now they're going to have to go down to Mankato and try and spoil their, I know it's not homecoming, but you got to spoil their home opener. And especially with the quarterback that Mankato has. And Hayden Eckern was named the NSIC Offensive Player of the Week. He was involved in all 5 of the Mavericks' touchdowns. He had 265 yards of total offense. He was 18 of 25 passing for 209 yards and a touchdown. And he ran for 56 yards and had 4 touchdown carries. So a dual threat quarterback, and is the first Maverick quarterback, according to MSUMavericks.com, to record 4 rushing touchdowns in a game in 11 years. So this is a guy that you're going to have to stop, a dual threat quarterback. That's going to make things tough, because it just does for a defense. You have to have a guy spying. You have to make sure you're disciplined from a pass rush to keep that guy in the pocket. If you're a linebacker who's like, if he rolls out of the pocket, you have to, again, do you go up and get him? Do you cover the guy, the wide receiver that's most definitely behind you? Like, there's a lot of things that go into that. And of course, Mankato's known for being a very good running football team, and they're known for running the football and being very, I should say, deliberate and very efficient in that as well, because that's what they were against Bemidji State a season ago at the Chet. It's going to be tough, man. Looking at some of their stats against Northwest Missouri State, who again was a ranked opponent, just on the edge of the rankings, but was a ranked opponent coming into that game. They outgained them 423 to 251. Even though Northwest Missouri outpassed them, they allowed negative 17 rushing yards from Northwest Missouri State. I'm sure sacks had a big part to doing that, so a little skewed, but you still get my point. 28 first downs by the Mavericks to 10 for Northwest Missouri State. On third downs, they held them to 3 of 11, and Mankato had the ball for 40 minutes of game time. This, again, you're going to have to not play perfect, but you're going to have to be on your A game. You can't turn the ball over in the red zone. You can't fumble the ball. You can't allow some of these mistakes. You're going to need to play not 100% perfect, but you are going to need to be sharp to beat this Mankato team, because they Not that they're an offensive juggernaut, but they can play.
Yeah. I'm looking at this game and I'm nervous, man. I want to play a competitive game. I want this to be the year that we can finally knock Mankato off once again. It just after that week 1 performance, I'm not sure. But week 1 is weird, man. You see it all the time. It's always weird. We had some trouble getting the offense clicking. People weren't on the same page, maybe. Maybe Michigan Tech stepped up more than they will. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to project, especially when we have so little data as well to go off of. College football, especially, is a really difficult thing to kind of project year to year, especially with how much movement there is every year in the player pool. Coaches leave, coaches stay, players leave, players stay. We've only got one game of data to go off of for both of these teams, so it's a shame that we don't have a little bit better breakdown of the statistics and what the averages look like for both of these teams so far. We know Bemidji's defense is going to be good, but we know Mankato's defense is also good. So I'm very interested to see if the offense can wake up and have a little bit more of a spark, because if they play better than they did against Mankato or against Michigan Tech, this could genuinely be a pretty good game for Bemidji State. I don't think that they're just going to roll over and die at the feet of the Mavericks, but I think that it's going to be a huge test this early in the season to really see where this team is at making progress in the, I keep bringing it up, but it's the post Brandon Alt era at this point. This is going to be where this is a huge barometer and a huge test for where the team sits in that category.
Right. And the last couple of years, they've had a tough time beating Mankato, and they still made the playoffs. So it's not that it's not if you lose to Mankato that your playoff hopes are done or any hope of having a successful season is out the window. That's not the case. The team lost to Mankato the last 2 years, and they still got into the NCAA tournament and won a game. So, it's not a death knell if you can't get it done. But again, if you can get it done, it'd be a nice little statement win. This is a nice Mankato team you're going to need to go in a beat. You're going to need to be ready to go play them. It's going to be under the lights with a 6 p.m. kickoff. So it's just going to be a game. I mean, they've played them on homecoming. They've played them, I believe, was it week 1 a couple of years ago? Week 2 week 1 2 years ago. So, I mean, you don't always get great circumstances to play some of these good teams. You like to have a few more weeks where you could play, Mankato, or where you could play Minot, or you could play Mary or some of these other teams before you get to Mankato to build a little momentum. But this is your time that you get to play them, and you got to make the most of it. So it'll be fascinating to see what happens. Again, they're going to need to win the turnover battle. They're going to need to be efficient on third downs, and they're going to need to be efficient in the red zone, scoring touchdowns. Because if you don't score touchdowns in the red zone, Mankato will. And it's whichever team is, when they get into the red zone, scores touchdowns, that is going to win this game on either side. If the Bemidji State defense can hold them in the red zone to field goals, not every time, but just a couple times, that puts them in position to win the game. So it's going to be a fun one. I'm anxiously awaiting, maybe is the best way to word it. I think Bemidji State can win this game. I think that's a possibility. I think if you're given the edge, it's probably to Mankato right now because they're the home team. They're rolling after a good week 1 win. Not that Bemidji State can't beat them, but they're trying to figure some things out. Again, post Alt, you got to figure out your offense under McGath, and you have to figure out as well, just, are you going to be a power pass team? Or are you going to be a power run team? Or are you going to, whatever. And like you talked about, there's some wide receivers who need to find some roles, and there's just a lot of stuff that you need to get set yet. If this game is played in like week 8, I think we feel a lot differently about it than if it's played in week 2. I think right now, if you were to pick a score, you'd probably pick maybe Mankato edging like 31-23 or something like that would be a guess. But I'm holding out hope Bemidji State can win this game.
Yeah, it's tough. It's an uphill battle. If Bemidji State wants to win, they're also going to have to take the ball away. If they can get, 2-3 turnovers in this game, take care of the ball on offense, you might not be able to get away with just +1 in the turnover category. You might have to go +2 or +3 in the turnover category to really help sway the tide, because the whole bend don't break thing works great against mediocre teams. It doesn't work that well against Mankato. You have to not bend, but break Mankato's offense by taking the ball away several times in this game. I think that that's going to be the only way to really curb their offense enough to keep Bemidji State in this game. And if I'm going to give an official score prediction, I hate to do it. It hasn't happened too often on the podcast that I've picked against Bemidji State football, but I'd have to go Mankato 24, Bemidji State 14.
There you go. We gave you bulletin board material, guys. So
yeah, use it. I mean, hey, I'd hope to be wrong. I feel like what would the point of this podcast be if I came on here every week and said Bemidji State's going to win by 30 because I'm a fan of the team. I'm trying to do my best to watch the games and give some realistic commentary, but I hope they prove me wrong. I would love for them to do that. Feel free to tweet at me, the entire football team, if I'm dead wrong on that.
There's definitely worlds where Bemidji State wins this football game. It's not that they are dead on arrival. It's just, if you're to play the simulation 100 times, Mankato is more likely to come out and win this game. Yeah. More likely than not. So we'll have to see. It'll be a fun week of Bemidji State football coming up again, 6 o'clock kickoff on Saturday, which is nice. And forgot to mention this last week, but not only can you listen to all of the games for free, you can watch them if you get the NSIC app. And what's really cool is you can get that app right on your smart TV. So I used to have to put it on my laptop and plug the laptop into the TV till last fall. Ian's like, there's an app for it, right? And I was like, no, because I'm an idiot, and put it right on the TV. It's so much better. Much better.
That was really convenient. I could not believe that I had not thought of that earlier. I'm like, man, you know what? I've had a smart TV for 6 years now, and I always forget that you can add apps to your TV. I'm like,
you mean you can't?
Let me just take a shot in the dark here and see if there's an NSIC network app. And by God, there is. So if you have a smart TV, go and just check. It's on Roku for sure. I'm sure if it's on Roku, it's probably on other smart TVs. So that's
right.
That's awesome.
You mean to tell me that we don't just have Hulu and Netflix and YouTube TV?
Apparently not.
Apparently not. Okay, good to know.
There is a couple more things I want to touch on quickly about football, not necessarily Bemidji State, just before we jump into any other sports.
Yes, I see.
Yeah, we don't need to touch on everything. Nothing was in conference this week, but a couple of notable games. Minnesota Duluth won over Northern Michigan, who I don't believe has won since the calendar year of 2022. They have been pretty bad. It was 35-7. Other notable games, UMary won over soon-to-be member Jamestown, 23-6. South Dakota Division I team, FCS, I believe, beat Northern State 45-3. So not a very good start for Jordan Hines Wolves there, but a Division I opponent nonetheless. And then the shock of the weekend in the NSIC, Sioux Falls takes down Division I St. Thomas with a score of 34-13. Absolute unbelievable. I mean, Sioux Falls had a down year last year. Usually they're up at the top of the conference.
They're always nice teams, yeah.
They won 3 games last year, though, in Division II. St. Thomas lost to them by 21 points
in the opening week. In a not great FCS conference in the Pioneer League. It's not known for, it's not the Missouri Valley Conference by any stretch of the imagination or even the Big Sky, but still, St. Thomas won the Pioneer League the last couple of years. They would have made the postseason if they weren't still in year whatever of their 20-year playoff hiatus to get into Division I, but that's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That's when I saw people on Twitter posting about that game, I'm like, wait, Sioux Falls is dominating the Tommies? More power to them, man. But that might mean that Sioux Falls, when we get to, because I think we play them later on this season.
Yeah.
That might mean, we play them in just a couple of weeks. That game might be a little scarier than we think.
They used up all their touchdowns. They used up their good game against St. Thomas. We'll get
it. That's definitely it.
Just like in hockey, Bemidji State is better than St. Thomas in football. So we'll keep rolling with that. Absolutely. You just hate to see bad things happen to St. Thomas, What did they do to deserve that? They just need something to go right for them over there.
Yeah.
They're just,
Anyways,
they never have success, you know. Really, when's it going to be their turn?
who cares?
Who cares? It's fun to, it's fun. It's fun when it doesn't happen to you. So it could. Week 1 didn't go the Beavers' way in terms of necessarily dominating victories, but certainly could have been a lot worse. They came away with a win, and there's some things to build on. Not so much for some of these other schools.
Right.
But what are you going to do? All right. Things to build on. Let's build on volleyball and women's soccer and get out of here for the week. Women's soccer, here we go. Trying to get to another NCAA tournament, trying to defend an NSIC tournament championship from a season ago. They've had some exhibition games. Ian, how are we starting off for the regular season slate?
The regular season slate starts this Friday at 4 p.m. at the Chet. Both games this weekend at the Chet against Missouri Western State, and then Sunday at noon against Drury. So 2 games this weekend. Don't know much about either of these 2 teams. Honestly, I don't believe either of those 2 teams were tournament bound last season.
These are teams Bemidji State should win as well.
Yeah, I would think so. And if I'm not mistaken, did we not play Missouri Western last season?
I thought we did. Was it like a home?
We did, yes. It was a 1-1 draw in Missouri last season. So historically, we've played them 5 times, 3-1-1 against them, with the latest being the 1-1 draw. If you look back, it's been recent history, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, and now again, a little gap. We play them in 2023 and 2024. So Bemidji State holds the edge over I assume it's the Griffins
Sure.
Yeah. I can't tell exactly what the mascot is, but they hold the edge over the Griffins historically, and hopefully they can come away with another win here at home. I don't believe they've ever played Drury, because when you click on the history tab, it takes you to something completely different than what you would normally see. So this might be the first ever matchup with Drury. I don't know if it's Drury College or Drury University. I do know that I don't like when R's are that close to each other in a team's name, because it makes me sound stupid when I say it out loud. But yeah, these games should be available on NSIC Network because they're at home. The following week, I don't believe you'll be able to watch them unless that conference offers a free site like the NSIC Network does. We've had that issue in the past. So
it says watch on here, so maybe
it does. But I don't know if the GLVC Sports Network is a free-to-watch sports network for Upper Iowa and Quincy.
You know, those Upper Iowa games are premium content. You know?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I know we've run into that problem in the past. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, let's hope for 2 wins. Start off the season strong. Had a couple of games to warm up. We don't normally have this many exhibitions early on in the season, so hopefully they got some stuff worked out and they can start off the season strong.
Here we go. Why not us? Why not now, right?
Exactly.
Here we go. And volleyball going to get their season going this week as well. I don't have their schedule pulled up right in front of me, Ian, but who do they start it off against?
So they right now are in Hawaii, I assume, already down there, over there. They have 4 games in a little tournament in Hawaii, the Deleuze Chevrolet Hawaii Volleyball Challenge. They play Hawaii at Hilo. They play St. Martin's. They play Western Oregon, and they play Hawaii Pacific. Those are the 4 games coming this weekend: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Saturday. So not necessarily an easy task, but you never know. This is a very hard thing. Last season, you look at the schedule early in the season, they did pretty well.
Yeah,
they did pretty well. They ended up winning a couple of games.
The NSIC is such a tough volleyball conference that if you go outside of the conference, you feel like it's a little easier.
Yeah, They did play Western Oregon last year. They lost 1-3. They did play St. Martin's last year. They lost 1-3. So we'll see if we can get some revenge for that last season. And this is going to be one of the more interesting teams to follow over the course of the season. They went 10-16 overall last season. That's, when you think about it, well, that's not that good. That's under 500. Who cares? Well, for Bemidji State volleyball, that was actually a fairly fun season to watch.
Big step in the right direction.
Including a huge upset win over a top 10 team in the country, St. Cloud State, in Bemidji's home gym. So this is going to be an interesting team to watch this season. Are they going to build off that? Or are they going to take a step back? And like we said with softball, 1 year of taking a step back isn't necessarily saying, all right, the program's just back to being bottom of the barrel. It might just, progress is not always linear. And in this case, we hope it is. We would love to see a 20-win season out of Beaver volleyball. I just don't know that I'm going to get my hopes up for that quite yet. But it'll be interesting to see how they do in Hawaii, if they can pick up some wins here. At the very least, like we talked about with some of these teams, very cool to get to go play volleyball games in Hawaii.
Yeah. I mean, if you can get that option, the only downside is you wish you could schedule that tournament for like January or something like that. But unfortunately, your season doesn't go that far. Yeah, no, it doesn't allow for that. It's why you got to be like on the baseball, softball team and take those February trips to Hawaii or to Arizona or Texas or Florida or one of those. It's a great deal if you can get it, let me tell you. But it's still going to Hawaii any time of the year isn't exactly a tough trip by any stretch of the imagination. Bemidji State has some other games later on. They start conference play on September 18th when they go to Crookston and Mankato. So a lot of stuff going on for the volleyball team as they get ready to begin their season. Looking for other Bemidji State news and notes to talk about. The men's basketball team did announce their schedule for the 2024-25 season, starting the NSIC conference slate in December. They do have an exhibition in the cities against the University of Minnesota on October 19th, which, they'll play some D3 teams. They'll play some D2 teams here and there. Will be kind of fun to see Bemidji State play the Gophers and just see how things stack up. It'll also be funny because Bemidji State played Gophers big man Parker Fox in like 2018. So it's fun to see that
he's at that game.
Yeah. We were there. I was there. I've seen him play.
Yes, sir.
We saw him play while we were on campus. And Ian, it's been a minute since we've been allowed on campus. Yeah. I'm just going to say, man, all props to him. He gets to play college basketball at a high level. I'd love to do that. A little bit of jealousy when I say this, but man, you might need to brush up on the LinkedIn. Just a little bit. Come on, man.
Let the kids have fun, CJ. Come on, man.
I don't get to have fun. I don't get to play. But
I was just watching a video actually about that this week where it's like some of the college football players that have been around forever. And it was like guys that have been here for like 7 years. It's like, oh, you're kind of a dork. Like close the yearbook type thing. But then there's that guy from Miami where this is his 9th year. And like, to be fair to him, he's been injured a couple times and he's using his eligibility. He's technically using his eligibility fairly. Like it's
in the rules,
but it kind of comes back to like, man, that's actually kind of sick. Like, what are you, 26? You're still going to school?
19-year-olds? Yeah.
19-year-olds.
Because was he like a tight end or something? So you're out.
Yeah, I think so.
He's like a 19-year-old linebacker, and you're just like, I'm gonna flatten this kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, my guy finishing up.
You go home to your wife and kids, and he goes back to his dorm room and turns on Call of Duty or something like that.
Exactly. It's like you're worried about philosophy 4000. Man, you got to be worried about like your $4,000 a month mortgage. Like, what are you doing here, my guy? Like,
how many classes do you think that guy's still taking? Like, he had to have graduated at this point. Like, he's just on campus to play football?
No, he's getting his graduate. You probably get like a graduate degree.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure at this point he's just got to do something to stay on campus.
Look, this is coming from a communications major, but you're probably getting like a degree in communications, right? Or like as a sport management minor myself, or like some kind of sport management thing.
Yeah.
None of these are knocks, but it's just to say that he's not exactly getting like his master's thesis in neurosurgery or something like that.
Maybe.
Maybe.
You never know, dude.
At the University of Miami.
Yeah.
Look, if you got to use it, I don't blame you. But from my position here, while I'm literally recording this at my work location, my 9-to-5 job, I don't necessarily feel terrible. But hey, the Gophers will play them. It'll be kind of cool. The thought has to have crossed your mind, Ian, about buying a ticket to that exhibition game at the barn, hasn't it?
Potentially. Yeah, I think it could be cool. We'll have to see what's going on.
It's just a fun place to go watch a game.
Right. I went to the other exhibition too. I think it was probably around the same time of 2019-ish, 2018. The Beavers last played an exhibition down there, and I was at that one. And that was pretty cool to see. Obviously, you're not learning much. You're kind of just watching. The coaches are getting a lot out of it, but it's just kind of an event to go to. So we'll see how much I feel like traversing down to the cities and, dealing with traffic and all that just to watch an exhibition game, but potentially.
Right. Potentially. Looking at some of the other games, once you get into the actual regular season slate, they do go to Kansas City. They play in the Central Regional Challenge against the University of Central Missouri and University of Arkansas Monticello on November 8th and 9th. The Beavers start their home schedule on November 13th when they play Valley City State. And then they play Minnesota Morris. So Valley City's an NAIA team. Morris, of course, is the Division III team. So you have a couple schedule wins there to get your regular season going. And then you head to Barry University and Lynn University in South Florida. And that's a Thanksgiving tournament that they'll be doing down there. They start the NSIC regular season schedule in December when they go to Crookston and Minot on December 6th and 7th. And the NSIC home opener is against Moorhead on December 13th, and then St. Cloud State University. So two nice teams from a year ago. Of course, MSUM had a very good season, and the defending Division II champion Minnesota State Mavericks are on the schedule as well. So there you go. A little bit of Bemidji State news. I think we've hit our threshold. Ian, any other Beaver related activities that we need to talk about? Otherwise, we can always plug the Discord.
Yeah, nothing that I can think of off the top of the head. I think we've covered everything for this week. It'll start to pick up now as all of the sports are getting underway, at least all the fall sports. So interested to see how soccer can do, volleyball as well. Can they continue to build on the success of last season? Other than that, yeah, join the Discord. It was pretty fun for the first game. I wasn't able to be super active in it as I was using my phone to watch the game for the first match against.
I couldn't even watch my game on TV. My wife is an NDSU alum, so we were watching. Colorado. That game was on our television screens. I was watching the Beavers on my phone though. Right. For the overtime period. I had to work, so like we both talked about. We both couldn't necessarily get a full viewing experience this Saturday.
There was some people in the Discord though chatting it up about the game. That was definitely fun. It's fun. Yeah, exactly. It's fun to talk to other people about Bemidji State athletics. Who would have thought? So if you aren't in it and you want to be in it, it's on all of our social pages. We'll try to retweet it a little bit more just so it kind of gets out there now that the season's actually underway. But yeah, get in the Beaver Banter Discord. It's the best place to talk Bemidji State sports with other fans of Bemidji State.
Yeah, it's a great place to go. Again, follow all of our socials. The Beaver Banter YouTube page is the one spot to watch this podcast in video form. You can listen to it audio-wise on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Also give us a follow on Twitter or X at Beaver Banter, and follow us on Facebook and YouTube as well. I'm CJ Baumgartner. That's Ian Rivers. This has been the Beaver Banter Podcast. Roll.